What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Paddy Pimblett versus Charles Oliveira next. All signs point to Paddy Pimblett getting booked to fight one of the UFC's very best lightweights next. And legendary cage announcer Bruce Buffer believes that man will be Charles Oliveira. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Now that Pimblett battered and finished Michael Chandler at UFC 314, the charismatic fighter is ranked number 8 in the lightweight division. On account of the big star that Pimblett is becoming, everyone fully expects that he'll be tapped to fight a top 5 ranked contender next. Well, Oliveira was one of the fighters Pimblett mentioned as a possible opponent after he put away Chandler. And while speaking with TMZ Sports recently, Bruce Buffer said that he believes Du Bronx will be next for the baddie. Charles Oliveira is probably the one he'll be coming up against for sure. That's who I'm thinking about. Oliveira is great on the ground and great standing up. Paddy is proving himself both on the ground and standing up. Both have long limbs. It's going to be a brawl for it all if it ever happens. Now, there's no question a lot of people want to see that bout, but Oliveira has repeatedly said he's only interested in fighting for the belt. Recently, he told Porto de Valitudo this: "I don't run away from anyone. I never have. If it's for the title, why not fight Topuria? I'm looking for the title. I don't want to fight another fight just to wait for the title. No." Given that he's not long removed from a loss to Arman Tsarukyan, and because Islam Makhachev beat him in 2022, he may not get his wish. All that aside, recently, Pimblett appeared on Buffer's podcast. When he was asked about the possibility of moving to featherweight, the baddie made it clear that's not happening.
With your eyes on the lightweight prize, do you ever see yourself like maybe going back down to featherweight to take on a champion, or just stay at 155? I know these weight cuts are very hard at times.
I wish I could make 145.
I could see you fighting at a welterweight in the future.
Yeah, definitely I could see me doing it, especially in years to come when you get a bit older and the weight cutting gets a bit harder and stuff like that. And, you know, obviously some, like, what do they call them, super fights. If there's someone at 170 that's a good matchup and can sell pay-per-views, then yeah.
It's hard to imagine Pimblett making 145 pounds again, especially since he often balloons up in weight in between fights. That may not have been the case so much ahead of UFC 314, but the baddie did say that he's already put on around 40 pounds.
On Sunday I had about 5 milkshakes after the fight, literally. This morning I woke up like 198, which is fat. Like, that's about the heaviest, I guess, in the States, that food. The one thing I don't think any of us like doing is making weight, but that's what we have to do.
Guess we won't see Pimblett stepping on short notice for a lightweight contest anytime soon. Tom Aspinall teases fight news. At this point, talk of Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones fighting prompts a widespread "I'll believe it when I see it." But based on recent comments Aspinall made, it sounds like just maybe we could hear something soon. For months now, there's been endless speculation as to if and when the heavyweight stars are going to fight against each other. Although Jon Jones repeatedly said in the past he was not interested in facing Aspinall late last year, he said he would fight him if the UFC forks over some serious cash. As April winds down, there's still no word on the fight, but recently Aspinall reported that while he can't share any details, some big news could be coming soon.
I do know what's happening. I have had meetings with the UFC, as we know. I have been sworn to secrecy for a little bit, so stay tuned, stay up with the channels, stay up with the UFC channels, of course, as always, as you guys always do. But there will be news coming, hopefully, very, very soon. But if you're going to ask me, I can't give the answer right now. But stay tuned, it's coming, it's coming.
Assuming Jones and the UFC do come to a deal for the Aspinall fight, do you see it happening this summer, or could we be looking at the fall? Despite all the delays to make this fight happen, Aspinall is still firing the odd verbal shot Jones's way. For example, he recently posted this: "The only juice you will catch me on." And in a recent Aspinall interview, he was asked to describe fighters in a couple of words. When asked to do so for Bones, the English star stated, "Strange guy." Do you agree? If Aspinall and Jones do end up fighting, it goes without saying it's going to be a massive and fascinating fight. To date, Aspinall has never fought in championship rounds. In fact, he's been so dominant, he's never fought in round 3. But in a recent episode of his podcast with Ilia Topuria as his guest, Joe Rogan cited serious concerns about the fact that Aspinall has yet to fight in later rounds. That's great, but it's also not great because Aspinall, doesn't have any deep water experience. You know, if you're fighting a guy like, imagine if he fought Stipe when Stipe was in his prime, or he fought Cain. You can't have 1-round fights and expect to beat Cain Velasquez in a 5-round war, because the chances are you're not going to catch him in the first round and he's gonna his cardio. It's just like an alien. What are your thoughts on Rogan's statements here? Do you agree? Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev should be next. During a recent live stream, Merab Dvalishvili was seen talking to an influencer named Sneeko and Jake Shields when he was asked about Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. The champion didn't shy away and said that Islam should fight Ilia next because he's the biggest name out now. Here's the clip.
Ilia should get the fight against Islam.
That's the fight to make for him. Yeah. He vacated belt.
That's what I'm saying.
He's saying he's not anymore of featherweight. He's flyweight and then he's champion. Do you have like I know Islam saying first fight he say, oh, I don't want to fight small guys, but what's Ilia is the biggest name.
180 right now.
It's so stupid to let's say Ilia is my friend, I love him, but it's gonna be stupid if he fights Oliveira if he lost against Oliveira.
It's not just your friend, he's earned the shot. I don't know the guy, but that's...
Dana White releases fighters from the UFC. And in some unsettling and disturbing news, it looks like Ahmad Hassanzada will not be making his UFC debut at the promotion's April 26 card in Kansas City. In fact, it's possible that he might never fight in the UFC. It's being reported by multiple outlets that Hassanzada has been cut from the upcoming UFC card after he was arrested. For example, Real Kevin K recently posted this. AG Fight recently posted proof of the fighter's arrest and the fact he's been hit with a $400,000 bail due to the alleged crimes. Further, it's also being reported that Hassanzada has been released by the UFC on account of the allegations. Adam Martin recently shared MMA Mania's report. Per MMA Mania, Ahmad Hassanzada was cut by the UFC following the recent serious disturbing allegations against him. The lightweight fighter was booked to face Mitch Ramirez and then Evan Edler at UFC Kansas City. Belal Muhammad fires back at Carlos Prates' comments. Recently, Carlos Prates let it be known that he thinks he would have a tougher time against Islam Makhachev than Belal Muhammad, and the welterweight champion has fired back. Prates continues to prepare for his April 26 fight with Ian Gary. If Prates defeats the welterweight contender, he could be one more win away from challenging for the belt. As it stands right now, it's not clear what's next for Makhachev, although the lightweight king has repeatedly said he wants to move up to welterweight. So during a recent interview with MMA Today, Prates was asked about the possibility of facing either Muhammad or Makhachev, and who would be a tougher opponent. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a hard fight because Islam is much better than Belal Muhammad. I don't know if he's a better fighter, but he's much more harder to win the fight against Makhachev than Belal Muhammad, because he's good on striking, he's good on the ground, but I think Belal Muhammad has really good level of wrestling, and I also think his mindset is really good. It wasn't long before the comments got back to the welterweight champ, who took a poke at Prates and the fact that he's part of the Fighting Nerds team. Belal responded with this quote, "I would take this nerd's lunch money." If Prates and Muhammad do fight at some point, who do you see winning that battle? Concerns rise for Sean O'Malley injury. Merab Dvalishvili and Sean O'Malley are booked to run it back at UFC 316 in June, but due to a recent video clip and images that are making the rounds, there are some concerns that Sugar could be injured. O'Malley was granted his wish to get an immediate rematch with Merab, who ended his reign as the bantamweight champ last September. Immediately after the fight, O'Malley started campaigning for a rematch by arguing the judges got it wrong and that he actually won the fight. Well, ultimately, O'Malley got his wish, but recently, Real Kevin K reposted a Snapchat video clip which shows Sugar on crutches. Some observers questioned if the footage could be old, since O'Malley is shown having braids and it isn't fight week. But additional sleuthing appears to indicate that O'Malley and his crew are wearing the same clothes in other images from a recent poker game. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that the fight is going to be postponed. It could be that O'Malley has a mild sprain in his ankle or another mild injury, and that he's taking extra precautions by using crutches. But given that UFC 316 is going down on June 7th, you can understand why the clip is raising eyebrows. Magomed Ankalaev fires back at Khalil Rountree's comments. Recently, Khalil Rountree argued that the Alex Pereira who battled Magomed Ankalaev in March was not the same menacing force he faced last October. Well, those comments got back to the new light heavyweight champion, and Ankalaev clearly didn't care for them. Rountree fought Pereira at UFC 307 and was ultimately stopped by the feared striker in round 4. The Muay Thai specialist was in attendance at UFC 313, which saw Ankalaev defeat Pereira via unanimous decision. Recently, Rountree spoke with MMA Today, and while recounting his experience at UFC 313, he noted Poatan was not the same. "I just felt that the Alex that walked out that night was a different Alex than the one that walked out the night we fought. I know what it's like to be there in the cage and this guy's coming in there, I remember that. When I saw him walking out for Ankalaev, I just saw a different guy." Now, Rountree isn't the only person who's argued that Pereira seemed a bit off against Ankalaev. Some even questioned whether it was due to an injury, or if it was because he knew Ankalaev was going to pose a serious threat to his reign. All that aside, when Ankalaev came across Rountree's comments, the Dagestani fighter posted this: Khalil Bumtree, it was not first row. Like he said, he was the third row. Do you think Poatan was off his game at UFC 313? And if so, why? Max Holloway posted a video clip of him sparring with the Korean Zombie. Here's the clip. Caio Borralho offers to step in and fight Khamzat Chimaev. Following reports that Dricus du Plessis has been sidelined due to an injury, Caio Borralho has been driving hard for a fight with Khamzat Chimaev. Recently, the expectation was that the UFC was hoping to have Chimaev challenge the middleweight champion at UFC 317 during International Fight Week. But recently, veteran reporter Kevin Iola relayed he's heard DDP is hurt and will not be able to compete. It sounds like Bors has also heard the news, because he posted this response on social media: "This guy big as Well, as noted, Borralho is jumping on the opportunity. Here were some of the posts that the Brazilian made following the news. "I know a guy, UFC, you know who to call. All respect, my brother, but I know a guy. Let's give this show to the fans." Interim, Chimaev proceeded to spike buzz about the matchup by posting the following image, which appears to show him lifting up Borralho during one of their training sessions in the past. That prompted Caio to respond with this: "This time is real, my brother. No more helping to fight Nate. Just real fight now. Let's do it. Me versus you for the interim middleweight belt." But the two didn't stop there. Caio Borralho posted a video on Instagram calling out Khamzat.
So I think you all heard the news. So I heard that Dricus du Plessis is hurt for a period of time. So I know a guy that never say no to any fights. Dana, Hunter, you know who to call. I'm waiting.
Khamzat saw the video and left the following comment: "If we will fight 100 times, you will never win. If somebody knows you, you know that, bro." Then Caio fired back with, "If you say so, sign the contract and we will see." Khamzat then posted an image from an old training clip of him submitting Caio Borralho on his Instagram story. And then things got even more interesting, as Borralho proceeded to claim that Bors has agreed to the matchup. Khamzat said yes, the only thing that makes sense is the interim belt. This fight is going to be bigger than him versus Dricus, mark my words. So could the UFC actually be moving in this direction? There's no doubt that Borralho is one of the fastest rising commodities in the division, as he's gone 7-0 since joining the UFC in 2022. But if the UFC was going to put an interim belt on the line, and let's remember DDP just defended the title in February, would they tap Borralho for that opportunity? Or the number 1 ranked Nasruddin Imavov? What do you think? And before we continue, we have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day. It didn't take long for Dricus du Plessis to see the comments, because he fired back at Khamzat by comparing their cancelled fights in the last few years. He wrote, "Let's take a look at the last 2.5 years and tell me who's." In the tweet, he showed himself with no cancelled fights and Khamzat with 3 cancelled fights in the last 2.5 years. A fan called out Dricus and wrote, "Nice try at a comeback, but you spoke too soon when making fun of his pullouts earlier. Has karma had its way with you?" DDP responded saying, "Question is, was the fight signed?" Another fan responded saying, "Why doesn't it show your first cancelled fight with Izzy?" Dricus replied, "That was never signed." Do you think the UFC should rebook DDP versus Khamzat Chimaev for later this year? Or do you want to see Khamzat versus Caio Borralho at International Fight Week? Let us know in the comments below.